Hello everyone, welcome to Learn the Lingo. My name is Matthew, and today we are going to go through the book of Genesis and see how place names like Babel, Beer-sheba, and Bethel are given greater meaning when we read this book in Hebrew. Let's begin with the first place name in the Bible, Eden, or Eden. This word means pleasure or delight, which is quite a fitting name for the paradise of the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Pleasure. When God punishes Cain for killing his brother Abel, Cain says that God is driving him away from the face of the earth, and so he will be a na vanad, a fugitive and a wanderer. And then he goes to live in the land of Nod, which is a play on the word nad, which means wanderer. After the flood, people began to build a tower to the heavens, and God confused their language. That is why the place was called Babel, because there God, Balal, confused the language of the whole earth. Babel, or Babel, is here connected to the verb balal, which means confused or mixed up. Babel is not only the Hebrew name for Babel, but also for Babylon, which in the Hebrew Bible is called by this same name, Babel. Moving on to Genesis 16, in this chapter an angel appears to Hagar and tells her to name her and Abraham's son Ishmael. When the angel leaves, Hagar says that the Lord is El Roi. El means God, and Roi likely means who sees me. El Roi, God who sees me. She then names the well she was at Be'er Lachai Roi. Be'er means well, Lachai means of the living one, and Roi again means who sees me. Be'er Lachai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me. The word Be'er, well, is also used in the place name Beer-sheba, Beer-sheba, which has two different stories associated with it. In Genesis 21, the name Beer-sheba is given two interpretations. One is well of seven, where Be'er means well, and Sheba means seven. This is because Abraham gave a king named Abimelech 7 lambs. These two also made an oath with each other, nishba'u in Hebrew, which is another word that Sheva is related to. So Be'er-sheba could also mean well of oath. In Genesis 26, there is a similar story where Isaac makes an oath with Abimelech and names a Be'er, a well, Shiv'ah, which is a related word to Sheva, so also has a meaning of something like oath. And this is another reason the place was called Be'er-sheba, well of oath. In the story of Abraham's sacrifice of Isaac, Abraham tells Isaac that Elohim yir'eh lo haseh, God will provide for himself the lamb. And when God did so, Abraham called the name of that place Adonai yir'eh, the Lord will provide, or will see to it. This name in English Bibles is often known as Jehovah Jireh. In Genesis 26, Isaac digs a well in the land of Gerar. The shepherds of Gerar fought with Isaac's shepherds, saying, "That water is ours." Isaac then named the well Esek because they contended with him. Contended in Hebrew is hit asku, which is related to the name Esek, which means contention. The same fighting happened with a second well that Isaac dug. He named that well Sit Na, which means adversity. Sit Na is related to the word Satan, which means adversary, and which is where we get the name Satan from. The third well Isaac dug was not fought over, so he named it Rehovot, because the Lord has given us space so we can be fruitful in the land. Rehovot is related to the verb yirchiv, which means has given space. Rehovot, then, has a meaning of space or room. In Genesis 28, Jacob flees from his brother Esau to his uncle Laban. On the way, he stops at a place and goes to sleep. He dreams that there is a ladder to heaven, and when he wakes up, he says, "This place is nothing less than the house of God, the gateway to heaven." Then he names the place Beth-el, which is from Beit, house, and El, which means God. Beth-el, house of God. When Jacob goes away from his uncle Laban, they set up a heap of stones to be a witness between them. Jacob called the heap of stones Gal-ed, which is from the word Gal, heap, and Aid, witness. Gal-ed, witness heap. Laban calls the heap Yegar Sahaduta, which means witness heap in Aramaic. It was also called Mitzpah, which means watchtower, because Laban said, "May God watch between you and me." Jacob then went on his way, and angels from God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim, which means 2 camps. After Jacob wrestled with a man who then called him Israel, he called that place Peniel, because I have seen God face to face. The Peni in Peniel is related to the word panim, which means face. And again, El means God. So Peniel means something like God's face. Jacob then moves on to another place where he built himself a house and booths for his animals. That is why he named that place Sukkot, which means booths. A little while later, he builds an altar and calls it El Elohei Yisrael. El means God, and Elohei is from the word Elohim, which is another word for God. The form Elohei means God of, specifically of Israel, Israel. El Elohei Yisrael means God, the God of Israel. In Genesis 35, Jacob revisits Beth-el, house of God, and gives it a new name, El Beth-el, which means God of the house of God. Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died then and was buried under a tree called an alon at Beth-el. That alon was called Alon Bachut, which means alon of weeping. Fast forwarding to chapter 50 of Genesis, we get one more place name. Jacob had died, and Joseph, his brothers, and the Egyptians went up to Canaan to bury him. They came to the threshing floor in Atad and held a 7-day period of mourning. The Canaanites saw it and said, "The Egyptians are holding a solemn period of mourning." And that is why that place was called Avel Mitzrayim, which is from Avel, which means mourning, and Mitzrayim, which means Egypt or Egyptians. Avel Mitzrayim, the mourning of Egypt, or of the Egyptians. And that is a look at the place names in the book of Genesis. As you can see, many places in the Bible have their names connected to key Hebrew words in the stories of Genesis, which gives meaning to these place names that we don't usually see in English translations. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Hebrew behind these names, and if you enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.